It really is a history of people in Vancouver and the history of Vancouver and what feelings and emotions that were going on at that time, which was the West Coast had quite a fashion feeling or sense that was nowhere else in the world. And I think our company and what we did reflected that, even if we didn't realize it. And that was probably the best part, is that we didn't really know.
In the early 70s, Fox and Flubug were among the young entrepreneurs who decided to take a chance on Gastown. So if you look at the city directory records, on one side of them was the Mexican import shop, and on the other side it's the jeans store. So you get a sense of an area trying to achieve a certain kind of grooviness, which in Fox and Flubug's case, I think they really succeeded in doing. All we have to do is look at some of these, well, fantastic clogs, for example, and we can see that they really helped Gastown get its groove.
Shoes, of course, are only secondary to the superior design of the human foot. It's got to be comfortable. It's not just comfortable to stand in, it's got to be comfortable to be able to walk in, comfortable towards the end of the day. And then as far as the decoration goes, well, that's where you can let yourself go wild. The only thing that you've got to be careful of is that it has to be made.
I use a lot of handmade leather techniques where I do my own dyeing of the leather and finishing of the leather. The heels and soles I craft out of wood. But there's a lot of handwork. All the componentry that I can make, I make by myself.
That toe shape, which is exaggerated in the drawing,
Right.
was so unusual that a quite well-known line builder in Italy said, look, Peter, if you want to be successful, you've got to get away from these unusual shapes. But these unusual shapes, of course, caught on. This was actually given to the factory, and this writing here is in Spanish, and they would then write this up and make the samples, and this is what came out of it. That is all satin, and you can't cut satin and put an underlay without it fraying, and every triangle is embroidered. That took a lot to get the factory to be willing to do that.
When you moved your operations to New York, how did that change things, or how did things change in
Well,
terms of your design?
No, I had some buyers from New York had seen the line, and they said we were hiding ourselves in Vancouver and that we should really open in New York. And we found an old store. We negotiated with the landlord, got it for incredibly expensive rent. $325 a month it was. When we finished in that store, the rent was $6,000 a month. The same store. Gone up that much, yeah.
It was my visit to Peter Fox's house. Peter pulled out this 9-page letter that he had written to John in 1971 when he was on a buying trip to Europe. And of course, you never pick up the phone then. It would have been ridiculously expensive to make a transatlantic call. Couldn't fax. There was no email. So if you want your business partner to know the sort of life and death decisions that you're making on a day-by-day basis, you go back to the hotel room at night and you sit down and you handwrite 9 pages. So that letter, I think, is a great glimpse at how business used to be done and of the character and relationship between these two people who obviously had such a high degree of pleasure in their work and confidence in one another.
What kind of relationship did you have with the factory? It sounds like it was quite...
Amazing, really, when I think, because one little store came and gave tiny little orders. I mean, they have to make the patterns, they have to make the lasts, they have to make the heel, and all of that for very few pairs of shoes. So these shoes, there were only 12 or 15 pairs ever made.
Does speak to the idea that they are really one-of-a-kind pieces.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yep.
Artworks as opposed to the mass production.
Mass production, right.
The little shops, the people that are starting up, that are doing original things. There was such a feeling in the 70s of alternativeness, of being alternative or alternative culture. The regular shopping back then was done in department stores. It was really stodgy. It was unoriginal. So boutiques was where it was happening, and it was before the era of big box retailing and taking all those trends that are happening. Those big retailers now are taking all those trends that are happening and just commercializing them to the nth degree. But there's a sense that we're returning to more of a natural feel of quality and originality. And so boutiques can still take a place. I think it's exciting that young people are taking those chances again to just do their own thing, and that they're being rewarded by people trading their dollars.